Welcome to the Golden Gems podcast. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Paul Mooney and the high cost of absolute truth in comedy.
It's a heavy topic for sure, but a really essential one. You know, looking at the calendar, we're sitting here in February 2026.
Right.
We're coming up fast on the 5th anniversary of Paul Mooney's death, May 2021. And I have to say, his absence, it just feels louder than ever.
It's a deafening silence.
Yeah.
I mean, we're living in this age of algorithmic censorship and brand-safe everything.
Curated authenticity.
Exactly. And Mooney just feels like this monolith of unfiltered truth that we just don't have anymore. But the spark for this deep dive, it isn't just the anniversary, it's the release of the Mooney Vault.
Yeah, late last year, late 2025.
All that archival audio.
And it has been a total revelation. I mean, we're finally hearing these tapes from the Comedy Store, his private writing sessions from the 70s. And when you listen to them, the whole perspective shifts. It's not nostalgia anymore.
It's not nostalgia. It becomes forensic evidence.
Yeah.
You start to realize he wasn't just a comedian. He was like a sociological prophet. We're living in the world he predicted.
And that's really the core mission today, right? To unpack how Mooney wasn't just a part of comedy history, he was the architect.
Yeah.
He literally built the blueprints for these $100 million comedy empires. Pryor, Murphy, Chappelle, all while being systematically denied the throne himself.
But to understand that, to really get how that happened, you have to go back to the start. And I don't mean his first time on stage.
No, you got to go back to Shreveport, Louisiana, 1941.
August 4th, 1941, he's born Paul Gladney.
And he's born into, the absolute racial pressure cooker of the Jim Crow South. The notes we have call it a laboratory for racial hierarchy.
That's a chilling phrase. It wasn't just segregation, it was this daily lived system of terror. And he was raised mostly by his grandmother, Amy Ely.
Right. And she seemed to understand something absolutely vital.
Which was what?
That to raise a black boy in that world, smart wasn't enough. He needed armor. She raised him to have this defensive shell, to command a room, to just assert himself in spaces built to crush him.
So when he moves to Oakland around age 7, it's not just a change of scenery.
No, it's a total shift in consciousness. Oakland in the late 40s, early 50s was becoming this hub for black political thought.
You had the street corner speakers, the barbershop debates.
Exactly. It's where he learned that words were weapons if you sharpened them right. But there's this one detail in his biography that I think unlocks the entire Paul Mooney persona.
Okay.
It explains his delivery, his writing, everything.
You're talking about the circus.
The Gaddy Charles circus.
It sounds like something out of a movie, but it's real. For a few years, Paul Mooney was a literal ringmaster.
Not a metaphor. He's in the red tailcoat, the top hat, the white gloves.
And the whip.
And the whip. Now just think about the psychology of that image for a second.
A black man, mid-century America.
Standing in the center of the ring, commanding lions and elephants, sure. But more importantly, commanding a crowd of white faces.
That's the key. The ringmaster doesn't do the tricks. The ringmaster controls the narrative.
He tells you where to look. He tells you what to think. He learned right there that control is taken, not given. A revolutionary act. So when he finally gets on a comedy stage, he doesn't drop the persona.
He just swaps the tent for a nightclub.
Exactly. The crack of his punchlines became the crack of that whip. He wasn't asking for laughs. He was demanding your attention.
And that demand is exactly what he brought to the table when he met Richard Pryor in the mid-60s.
That meeting is arguably the big bang of modern comedy.
It's weird to think about now, but Pryor at that time was, he was doing this very safe Bill Cosby-style material.
Totally palatable. He was code switching, trying to fit a mold. And Mooney saw this potential for danger in him that Pryor hadn't even seen in himself.
So Mooney provided the structural discipline? The political framework?
That's a great way to put it. He taught Pryor to stop apologizing for his blackness. He was the engineer for Pryor's raw vulnerability.
Okay, so give us an example of that.
The perfect forensic case study is Live on the Sunset Strip, 1982. Specifically, the bit about his freebasing accident.
The story about running down Parthenia Street on fire.
Right. Most people remember it as this crazy, wild drug story. But Mooney guided him in crafting that whole narrative. They took this moment of pure self-destruction.
Pouring 151 proof rum on himself and lighting a match.
Just horrific. And they turned it into a meditation on addiction and the price of fame.
But it wasn't a redemption story. It didn't have a neat little moral at the end.
No, and that is pure Mooney philosophy. It was an exorcism. Mooney believed the truth doesn't need to be funny, it just needs to be true. The laughter from that story isn't joy.
It's a nervous reaction.
It's the sound of an audience being exposed to a reality so grotesque that the only alternative to laughing is to scream.
And that philosophy, that truth over comfort, it slammed right into the corporate world in 1977. We have to talk about the Richard Pryor Show.
The turning point. This is where the walls of the mainstream became very, very visible.
So NBC gives Pryor a primetime variety show. They're expecting a hit. They want the sanded-down, friendly version of Richard Pryor.
But Mooney is the head writer.
And he ensures they get the exact opposite. He saw it as a war, not an opportunity.
The opening of the first episode, I mean, you couldn't air it today. You couldn't even believe they aired it then.
Paint the picture for us, because the visual is everything.
Pryor walks out, totally nude, but he's wearing this flesh-colored body stocking that erases his genitalia. He looks like a Ken doll. He just stands there, arms out, and says, "I've given up absolutely nothing to be on NBC."
It was a visual manifesto. He was screaming, "NBC has castrated me," a direct assault on corporate neutering.
Mooney was watching from the wings, just delighted, while the network executives were having heart attacks.
The show lasted 4 episodes.
It was never going to last. It was radical art versus corporate censorship. But in those 4 episodes, Mooney exposed the entire game. They wanted the aesthetic of rebellion, but none of the actual risk.
Speaking of exposing the game, we can't skip the SNL word association sketch, 1975.
The gold standard of racial satire.
So it's Chevy Chase and Richard Pryor, a job interview. And it starts so politely. Chase says white.
Pryor says black. Bean. Pod.
The rhythm just pulls you in. It feels
That's
safe.
for a moment. And then it escalates. Tar baby, Ofe, colored, redneck, until Chevy Chase finally drops the N-word.
And Pryor, without a single beat of hesitation, says, "Dead honky."
What Mooney did there, because he wrote it, was aggressive transparency. He peeled back the polite language of corporate America to reveal the violence right underneath. He forced the whole country to hear the subtext out loud.
There's no punchline to let you off the hook. The tension just hangs in the air.
That was his signature. No relief. He didn't believe in comforting the audience.
So after the 70s, Mooney kind of shifts. The mainstream isn't going to let him drive. So he goes back to being the shadow architect.
Yeah.
But then in the 90s, he pops back up, big time, in living color.
And this is where we see the inversion of the ringmaster.
Homey D clown.
A cultural phenomenon. But just look at the character structure. He's an ex-con, a clown, forced to perform for white kids as part of his parole.
And the catchphrase everyone remembers.
Homie, don't play that.
Right.
Think about it. The ringmaster commands. Homie refuses. It is a thesis on the exhaustion of emotional labor. He will not smile for the oppressor's comfort. Hitting people with that sock is a physical rejection of the demand to be entertaining.
And it resonated so deeply because people felt that exhaustion in their own lives.
It was Mooney, through this character, basically saying, "I will not perform for you anymore," which of course became a massive performance hit.
Irony. And then, the 2000s. Dave Chappelle brings him back into the light on Chappelle's show. And Mooney's not really playing a character anymore.
Negrodamus.
The prophet.
Dave Chappelle essentially gave Mooney the microphone and told the world, this is the source code. Negrodamus was cynical, nihilistic, and just disturbingly accurate.
It felt like he knew the algorithm of American culture. He was predicting celebrity scandals, political outcomes.
Because he understood that American hypocrisy runs on a predictable loop. If you know the pattern, you know the ending. Chappelle gave him the platform TV had denied him for 30 years.
And around this time, he's also releasing these albums, like Race and Masterpiece. But they weren't comedy albums, not really.
No, they were graduate-level seminars on the semiotics of race. He's deconstructing the O.J. Simpson trial, Michael Jackson. He wasn't telling jokes. He was analyzing the headlines. A Mooney show back then wasn't for relaxation. You were there to be implicated.
Which brings us to the tragedy of it all. Because despite this genius, despite being the source code, Paul Mooney did not die a rich man.
No, he did not. And we have to be really clear here. This was a structural failure, not a talent failure.
I mean, you look at Eddie Murphy. His net worth is $200 million. Chappelle signs these $60 million Netflix deals. And Mooney, he's a cult figure.
Because the industry slapped him with the difficult label. And let's unpack that word, right? In Hollywood, difficult means an artist who refuses to be grateful for scraps.
He wouldn't kiss the ring.
He refused to compromise for access, and there was a massive financial cost to that. He watched the comedic language he invented get turned into a commodity by others while he stayed on the margins.
We also have to touch on his use of language. Specifically the N-word. It was controversial then, it's controversial now.
It was, but if you look at his work, it wasn't careless. It was a strategy, a linguistic reclamation. He wanted to de-weaponize the slur through saturation.
Just use it so much it loses its power.
Exactly. Use it as a noun, a verb, a term of endearment, a term of hate. He was refusing to let the gatekeepers police his language. But then as we got into the 2010s, the culture shifted.
Towards brand safety.
HR-friendly diversity. And suddenly, Mooney's approach started to look problematic to the very people who claimed to be fighting the same war.
He was a warrior whose weapons were being confiscated by his own side.
He became isolated. The industry wanted the aesthetic of a truth teller, but in the body of a corporate consultant. Mooney refused.
So here we are, 2026. The vault is open. What is his legacy?
He is the invisible hand of modern comedy. You can't watch it without seeing his fingerprints. But those Mooney Vault recordings, they're changing the narrative.
How so?
They show his rants weren't just rants. They were precision-engineered rhetorical devices. He was stress-testing the audience, finding their breaking point. He was an engineer of discomfort.
So the question isn't whether he went too far.
No, the final philosophical stake is this. The question isn't whether Mooney went too far, but whether society has gone far enough to finally meet him. In our era of algorithmic demonetization, his refusal to compromise looks less like stubbornness and a lot more like prophecy.
He told us the cost of absolute truth.
He paid that bill in full, and we're all still counting the change.
That is a lot to process.
Yeah.
But it's exactly why we needed to do this deep dive.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Golden Gems podcast. We'll be back next time with another deep dive. Until then, keep exploring, keep listening, and keep celebrating the power of uncompromising voices.